What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to episode 76 of the Charge to the Top, here with Hereford FC, and today we are back, and well, we're taking a look at the end of Season 8 review. Of course, if you missed last episode, it was the playoffs. You should go watch it. It was the playoff final against Aston Villa, a massive game for us, and well, if you watch that episode, you already know what happened, and well, as you can see on screen, I thought we'd start off by looking at the end of season awards. So you can see here, Fans Player of the Year, Kevin Kelly, 60% of the vote. It'd be fair to say that this gentleman here, he's a bit of a fan favourite. 74 goals in 128 games. His loan, of course, from Watford lasts one more year. And this year, 16 assists and 27 goals. Just an absolutely incredible contribution he's made this season. Really has been kind of a game-changing player for us. I think that'd be the best way to phrase it. Himself, and also Jamie Price, who is up there in the voting with 25% of it. These two gentlemen, they've made a difference for us, and I feel like these two guys are the pillars which, if we want to stay up next year, I need both these guys to probably hit double figures. That's what I'd say is needed. But of course, two young players. Price, of course, signed this year, and well, looking like signing of the year for me. £1.6 million paid. You can see actually the signing of the season in terms of the fans' opinion was actually Sam Booty, who of course joined us on a free transfer. A very, very good player. You can see 7.23 average rating, 12 assists across 27 starts and 8 appearances on off the bench. And at 23 years old, this guy, he's got a lot of potential left in him, and I think he's going to be a pretty important player for us next year in the Premier League. Goal of the season was Kevin Kelly against Leicester. We will rewatch it, of course, just to relive the moment, because this was an absolute screamer in our season. Of course, I believe the game was 0-0 at this point, and this was the goal that saw us advance in the EFL Cup, if I remember correctly. And well, I reacted to it live, and I want to react to it again. It really was a great little goal for us. But all in all, this season's been a really good season, you know. Last year, we narrowly missed out on the playoffs. I feel like this year, the aim was to just try and get to the playoffs. Given how narrowly we missed out on the automatic promotion in the end, to, you know, keep on track, I guess, and still win the playoffs is a great achievement. And while that was a lovely strike there by Kevin Kelly, a lovely long-range effort. And yeah, well, you can see the season review here. Few would have tipped us to achieve more than a top half finish heading into the season, but we confounded every expectation by securing promotion to the Premier League. Of course, we did finish third. The EFL Cup run as well definitely deserves a mention a little bit later on. Moment to forget, a 4-1 defeat against Birmingham. Match of the season, a 3-1 win away from home against Fulham. That was a really good little result at a time where we did need a good result as well. Anyway, if we now look at the end of season meeting, we can hold one of these. I'm just going to tell the players I hope they can keep us up. I'm going to just tell them I'm going to give them all a chance to keep us up. And, well, they all react quite well for the most part, although morale is just sky high in the camp as a whole. Anyway, if we look at the confidence here, obviously competitions, board are very happy. Matches, the board are happy. Club stature, they're delighted. Club finances, they're really happy about, but I'm not so happy about the club finances. We currently sit £2.6 million in the red. Our transfer budget for next year is £7 million. And our wage budget, I mean, it's more than doubled going into the Premier League. But real talk right now, next year, if I don't have more than £7 million to spend, that's going to be so difficult. I feel like for £7 million, you're going to struggle to bring in a Premier League quality player who can really help you cement kind of a mid-table finish. So to try and build a squad off the kind of fragments which we currently have that can, I guess, challenge to stay up in the division is going to be really, really tough. And I feel like next season is going to be an ongoing battle. I feel like a good start is kind of going to be critical. You know, if we can keep morale high, you always do quite well in Football Manager. It's if you get off to a slow start, you lose a few games, you know, morale starts to peter out, you know, confidence is lower. That is where the problems perhaps start to arise. Anyway, season injury report, you can see here, a few players missed a fair few games. Tom Davies actually missed 24% of the season with various injuries, which was a little bit of a shame. When we did call upon him, he did an okay job for us. Certainly a player I think we do need to replace for next year in terms of the centre and the midfield. Of course, we've got loads of players whose work permits are still pending. I'm hoping a few of these guys are going to get work permits. I'm looking at the likes of Mustafa Hamdi. You know, he's played a fair bit now for Egypt. Maybe he can get one. He'd be a useful player, certainly. Guy Akusu, I don't think he's going to get a work permit despite being one of the best players in our team, which is a little bit annoying. But as training as a whole has gone, I mean, it's been pretty positive. Of course, Chucky, a player we brought in with our arrival to the Championship. And you'd have to say the goalkeeper, whilst, you know, not necessarily having the greatest average rating, 17 clean sheets this year is just a really good little achievement in the Championship. And, well, if we just take a look at the team overview stats here in the Championship, you can see we did score the most goals in the end with 100. We had the best record at hitting the target, 48% of our shots hitting the target. And we also had the most clean sheets. It would be fair to say, as much as, you know, Price and Kelly played great going forward, defensively we were a real force as well. And while we ended the season, of course, 7 games without losing, which was, you know, just a really, really good way to end the year. Anyway, if we look at net transfer spend for the year, we were, you know, one of the lower spenders. In fact, you can see we actually made money over the course of the season, which is a really good achievement. 22nd there. If we look at a few other things here in terms of wages per year, you know, second lowest paid team. You can see our finances really not that healthy. Only Millwall paying their players less. In terms of average attendance by capacity, we are repeatedly selling out. Of course, we have got a new stadium in the planning phases. I'm hoping to hear more of that over the summer. In fact, did I hear something about that over the summer? I don't think I did. I'm wondering if I missed a news item at some point about it. I don't think I did. Of course, we did win it in that playoff final. The board are delighted. You can see here, promotion just achieved is absolutely fantastic. And well, when you look at our season, I feel like we were deserving of it. I mean, you look at our past positions for this year. You know, for a large spell of it, we were in kind of the mid-table zone, all the way really until the 23rd of December. But we have just had a really good kind of solid end to the year, and we kept pushing. We were in the playoffs for a large part of the latter end of the season, and deservedly so, really. You know, we made some good little signings, players I'm very happy that we brought in. Of course, January, it would be fair to say it was quite busy with players joining us, but, you know, a few of the players who joined in, players like James Strain, you know, contributed a little bit, perhaps didn't play as much as you'd expect. But no, there were a few other players like Chris Smalling who also joined our ranks and, you know, have been kind of difference makers. Chris Smalling, 7.29 average rating since he joined us, the 34-year-old, you know, an older player, a player who I don't really want to rely on quite so much for this coming season, but definitely made a real difference for us in the centre of the defence for, you know, the second half of this season. And I think he is a big reason why we went up, you know, to get in a few experienced players like him who really put in good performances. Anyway, if we just look at some of the player overview stats here, you can see highest average rating for the season. Jamie Price actually joint top. Kevin Kelly also right up there. So, of course, those 2 goal scorers doing very well for us. Perhaps a little bit of an unusual one here. Gustavo Rojas, most Jalakant. His contract does expire at the end of the year. He has had a work permit kind of renewal rejected on a few occasions. So it doesn't look like he's going to get a new work permit. But to my knowledge, if he chooses to stay at the club, you know, next year, despite his contract being expired, we can still play him because he would still technically have a work permit. It's a little bit weird how stuff like that works. That might be an option there. In terms of goal scorers, you can see Kevin Kelly wasn't near the top of the list by any means, really. I mean, he had 27 goals, so I guess he was joint third. But it was really the fact that, you know, Jamie Price was able to chip in with 22 of his own. That was the difference maker for us, to have 2 players really kind of dominating the goal scoring charts. In terms of assists, you can see Sam Booty also, you know, contributing a hell of a lot, the player who joined us on a free transfer. And I think really when you look at it, you have to look at the likes of Sam Booty and Jamie Price and what they added having joined the club kind of this year as the difference makers between last year, you know, where we did okay last year. It wasn't a bad season by any means, but it was, you know, so close yet so far. If we look at it, you know, we finished down in 7th. We struggled a little bit defensively. You know, we scored 82, but we conceded 67. Whereas this season, you look at it, we scored 91 and conceded 55. That is a notable improvement, both going forward and defensively. And, you know, it's something I'm very, very proud of the players for. And I mean, when you look at it, we scored the most goals in the league. And we actually had one of the best defences in the league, which is kind of can be certainly a tough balance to strike. Anyway, looking at our team as a whole here, obviously very, very proud of the players' achievements this year. In terms of the average ratings, Kevin Kelly and Price and Smalling all deserving of mentions. Brad Lynch as well joined us on loan from Middlesbrough this year. Unfortunately, his loan is expiring. Maybe a player whose loan I will look to renew because I do think he is a very good player, the 24-year-old. Other players who played well, Stuart Rumsby, of course, on loan from Newcastle. I definitely think defensively, if we can't get Stuart Rumsby on loan once more, we need to add maybe a new centre-back or two. I have got a few kind of earmarked at the moment as players to keep an eye out on. Of course, Tristan Needham had a pretty good year too. Played a hell of a lot of football this season, the Zimbabwean. 24 years old, a player who joined us last year for 750k in January. Didn't quite have such a great average rating this year, but within our kind of system as a whole, he was just a key component of it, particularly, later on in the year, going into the playoffs where we did kind of revert to this narrower system. He really was just a great rock in the midfield to have. Another player who I think is a little bit of an unsung hero, really, is Stuart Mulhall. Didn't necessarily have the greatest average ratings this year, but he contributed a lot. He played a lot of games for us this year, and the Irish player, who of course joined us from Nottingham Forest, really did kind of just perform superbly. A consistent performer, a player turned in, week out at 24 years old. Definitely has a few kind of years left in his locker, certainly in our team, I think, and really does deserve a lot of praise. Anyway, when we look at goal scorers, I talked about Kevin Kelly and Jamie Price enough this episode, but players like Ben Marshall have also contributed a hell of a lot. The 23-year-old, another player who joined us this year for just shy of £500,000, and, 11 goals, 3 assists, a 7.06 average rating across 36 games. He's come in and done the job we wanted from him. And another player who's done very well, actually, Jay Beckford, a player who, there are a few teams kind of sniffing around for him. I've said I want £10 million for the right winger. 25 years old, very talented player, certainly, a player who was released by Arsenal. We've brought him in from Warsaw, and he really has made a career for himself here, I feel like. Last year he had a great year with 8 goals and 14 assists. It was always going to be tough to match that, and this year he did perhaps fall just a little bit short of expectations. Anyway, I do want to talk just a little bit about some of the players I'm looking to bring in, because there are a few here certainly who are players I'm looking at. You can see I've scouted kind of all the players I can. One of the big issues I've really got at the moment is that because of my lack of money, I may well be looking at players who are transfer listed here as players that I have to bring in. I'm looking at players like Ezri Konsa here, the West Bromwich Albion centre-back. He's actually a former Charlton man, a bit like Harry Lennon. And this guy, 26 years old, looks like he could be a pretty good player. He was signed for £5.25 million just 2 years ago for West Brom. He's not made a whole lot of appearances, and if we look at his asking price, it's really low at £1.5 million. I guess the dilemma I've got here is that whilst those are fairly low kind of demands, that is still a big chunk of my transfer budget that is going to be going out until I have a kind of a firmer grasp, I guess, on, if I can sell any players to raise some funds to reinvest. It's going to be difficult to identify transfer targets as a whole. I feel like Konsa is definitely a player who I've kind of got earmarked as a player I'd like to bring in. Obviously, there's plenty of other players scouted here, I'm sure, that will unearth some more players as the season goes on and as the off-season goes on. You can see, if we just look at realistic transfers, there's a plethora of options here, but the real issue is that the majority of them, they just fall outside of our pricing range, and that's obviously a massive problem for us because we are going to have a bit of a shoestring budget to work off. I guess one of the fortunate things is that because of our finances and because of how low our wage budget and transfer budget are going to be, certainly at least in our first season in the Premier League, we should make a lot of money. So if we can survive the first year in the Premier League, there will be a lot of money in the kitty, because if you've ever managed in the Premier League, you'll know very much that first year you go up from the Championship, you end up with a load of extra money and can spend way more in your second season, and I guess that's what we've really got to strive to do. I don't feel like my job is at risk if we were to get immediately relegated. I feel like, realistically, the board probably appreciate the fact that going up into the Premier League, you look across our team here, it's not really a Premier League ready side in too many areas. And so I am hopeful that if we were to go straight back down, if it did all go horrifically wrong, they would still give me that second chance. I kind of look at the team and I definitely think there's enough to work with here. Players like Chucky, he'd be a decent goalkeeper, in my opinion, in a kind of a mid-table Premier League side. And, if Kevin Kelly and Jamie Price can find goals. Price is, again, a mid-table Premier League player. You can see decent player for Premier League sides. If we can really build, I guess, around the pillars in this team that we have, and also players like David Gums, just very, very solid players who, they might not be masterful players, complete players who can play free-flowing, passing football, but if they can do their jobs well and, put in disciplined performances and perform to the best of their ability, I feel like we should be able to stay up next year. I put my head out on the line. I think it's doable this year. So we'll have to see, I guess, how that plays out for us. But, I mean, all in all, really proud of the team performance this year. The Championship is a very, very tough division to get out of. I feel like we've made some pretty smart transfers. Some players have come really, really good for us. You know, the likes of Jamie Price, the likes of Sam Booty, Mulhall as well. Players who we've brought in the last year or two, who, you know, we've not paid massive money for. Their wage demands haven't been too extortionate. And they really have found a place here at Hereford. And I'm hoping that we at Hereford can find a place, I guess, in the Premier League. Anyway, that is, I guess, going to be all from me for this end of season review. Let me know what you made of the performance as a whole down in the comments. In terms of areas I want to improve, we need a new right back, we need a new centre back, a new left back might be necessary. I might move Gums into the centre back position. In terms of the midfield, I'd like to try and get one or two players of real quality. I feel like in the attacking third, actually, strikers aren't going to be so much of a concern this year. I'm quite happy with the strike force that we have, although I really would like to extend Brad Lynch's loan, if possible, for one more year, but I don't think that is going to be possible at the moment, with Middlesbrough going as strong as they are. And, well, to be honest, he's a pretty good player at 24. He could definitely play some first-team football for them. Anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up everything from me. Thank you so much for watching as always. If you have enjoyed, please do leave a like on the video. And yeah, other than that, it is me, Jack. I will see you guys next time for the start of the Premier League season. And other than that, I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.